Video just hit play.
Yeah, but no, it doesn't. The sound, anyway, it doesn't matter.
Oh.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Angel Heart Radio. Thanks for hanging in there for those first couple of minutes. I'm Anayah Joy Halili, as you know. Welcome, Carol Ann Cross.
Thank you, Anayah Joy Halili. I'm excited to be here today. I'm really looking forward to today's show.
And welcome to our fabulous guest. Now, many of you will already be very familiar with Janet Hickox, who is an incredible astrologer. living-astrology.com. Write that down. Make sure you keep that. You're going to want to use that. And we're going to talk about something incredible today after we do the intro, the disclaimer. But before we do that, welcome, Janet.
Thank you very much, Anayah and Carol Ann. I'm so excited to be here and to share this fabulous information.
Fabulous.
Much needed.
Much needed. Now, we just want to remind everyone that Angel Heart Radio programs are not to be used to replace your legal, medical, or professional advice, and that our opinions are just that. They're our opinions. They're not meant to be construed as advice. So that's out of the way. Janet, we've got a big beefy topic for today. Welcome to everyone watching on Facebook and YouTube. If you are watching anywhere else than on our Angel Heart Radio Facebook or YouTube page or channel, head on over to the Angel Heart Radio page, because that way we'll be able to see your questions and your comments. Over to you, Janet, to introduce what it is we're going to be talking about today and why it's so important.
Today we're going to be talking about the transition that we are in the process of making. You could call it an evolution, you could call it a mutation, but there is something very definitely afoot, and we are 7 years away from the actual dawning of that. So we are in what I would say the sacred years of preparation for that period of time. So it really occurred to me, I think when you asked me to come onto the show, that, wow, this is a prime time, because 2020 to 2027 is when we are in the prep stage. And what does that mean? Like, what do we have to do? And especially in the face of a world that seems so keenly chaotic at the moment, and likely going to be more so before the year is over, and even heading into the next couple of years, as various astrological features are also at play, sort of stirring the pot, if you will, of this particular evolution. So there we have what we're going to talk about.
So it's a really powerful time for us all, and I'd like to welcome Helen in the chat. We've got Becky in the chat, and I know lots of other people are going to turn up as well. So thanks for joining us, guys. This is really going to be life-changing. Now, when we're looking at what this evolutionary change means, this is so powerful, and Carol Ann and I have been speaking quite a lot about this over the last couple of weeks. So powerful because it's an individual effect for each individual on the planet, how we can collectively come together in support and empowerment of this change for us, for the planet. Yeah,
that's right. And if we can get some support to help us through to understand what's happening, then that's just really great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's a conscious choice that everybody is going to have to make. So this isn't something that's being perpetrated upon you. It is happening no matter what. You really, on one hand, there isn't any choice. It is going to happen. Your choice, or in your free will, you have the option to go into this heart open and wide awake and willing, or you can kick and scream and fight, or you can just ignore that it's even happening.
I know what I'm choosing.
And me too.
Me too. In fact, I was reading this number today. So it was that one third of the population at this moment is asleep, and they won't awaken. They will remain asleep. 1/3 of the population will awaken, and 1/3 of the population is sitting on the fence. They're not sure, right? They're not sure which way the wind is blowing. They are in the undecided category. So as we move forward through these next 7 years, more and more people, I'm sure, are going to be making this decision to awaken. And if I can in any way promote that process of awakening, then I think it's the most important thing that I can devote the next 7 years to of my life, is helping people awaken. And what does that mean? Well, in a way, I have to go back and do a history lesson with everybody. So if you'll bear with me for a history lesson in human design. Now, human design is a fairly new astrology here on the planet. It was born in about 1987. It was channeled from directly from spirit through a man whose name was Ra'u Ruhu. And in a way, he was the birther of it, and he promptly set about to bring that energy to people, teaching people about this new system. And this new system was about self-love and self-empowerment and being authentic and living out your truth. It was about letting go of the mind and undoing some of the mind's damage that has been done over the years, and opening up the heart and becoming more heart-centered. So we have, this began for all of us. Well, let's go back even further, way back when Cro-Magnon man was around on the planet. So Cro-Magnon was before Homo sapien, but after Neanderthal. They were a seven-centered human design. And if you've looked at your current human design chart, you notice there are 9 centers. So from the dawn of Cro-Magnon man until about 1781, when the planet Uranus was discovered, we lived as a 7-center human being. And then those years from 1781 until 2027 were sort of, I think I heard the term interregnum, which is sort of the in-between. So we have been humans on the in-between scale between, we have the 9 centers now prominent, but we haven't yet come to that, what will be a massive mutation in our very DNA. So we are fumbling around at doing the best that we can with the tools that we've had. And the time period that we have been in from 1781 has been primarily focused on the mind and the development of the mind, which is all right and perfect, right? We had to know that we had the tools to understand the mechanics of the planet, to understand how things worked. But we also had to learn how to create community and how to live together, because as the population was growing, we were moving from the tribal sort of energy where we lived in small little communities. We moved into urban centers and then, into cities, and then just kept, growing and growing. So we needed the intellectual advancements that would happen during this period of time to support our ever-growing evolution of our consciousness on the planet. So most of this came through the industrial age, right? That was the late 1700s, mid 1700s through the early 1800s. That is the dawn of modern medicines, of machines, of the technology in communication. So it's from your very, toilet to your high-tech cell phone, all of that has happened because of the development of the mind. So while the mind is not always our best friend at this particular moment in time, it has served us well, right? It has brought us to this very highly technological time in our history. And let's see, there was, before, there were, in the early part of the 1700s, there was this, and earlier, there was this idea of rulership from above, where not only was there a God who was presumably dictating life to us and our rules and our morals and what we could do and what we couldn't do, there were also kings, or there were authoritarian types of people who the common people acquiesced to. We didn't take our power at all during those periods of time. But as we've moved forward with the 9-centered being, the separation of the identity center and the heart center endowed each of us with an ego, which was already there in place. So I don't mean that it developed, but we began to individuate. We began to really see ourselves as individuals with capable minds and wanting more freedom to be able to educate ourselves in the way that we wanted to be educated. So all of the institutions that we think of, all of the modern day conveniences that we think of, all came up because we actually did this individuation, right? We had people over here working on technology. We had people over here working on education. and there was, communications over here, and there was medical over here. I mean, we had all different kinds of space travel, all of that, right, comes to us out of that very powerful mind. So it's where we, in human design speak, found our genius, right? And our genius isn't an intellectual number that, tells you whether you're on the Mensa scale or you're on the lower end of the education. Genius was sharing your unique blueprint with the world, and differentiating yourself from maybe your family, because before, remember, in old history, it was the father and the son and the family. If you were a family of millers, you were always going to be a family of millers. If you were blacksmiths, you were going to be blacksmiths, etc., etc. So the authority that we gave over to our institutions is what we are now having to take back. And here's where the interesting part comes, because you look out in the world right now and what is happening. All of those institutions.
Yeah, exactly.
Education, medical, the government, our economy, our military, all of these things are crashing around us. Even from our point of view, the earth is, going through global warming and pollution and ocean problems, and need I go on, right? I mean, we're seeing right now that we have perhaps participated in the creation of a very big monster, and now it is in the process of failing us. They're falling apart. And
can I just say right here then how important it is that this show is today, Janet, and this is such an ideal moment. I had to butt in because there's such a lot of fear around that, and what you're bringing us is empowerment around that for us, each individual. So I just want to really just make sure everyone really is aware of that right now as you're listening to Janet. So thanks, Janet.
And yeah, you're welcome. And thanks for that. I'm also going to throw out another word for both of you and for all of you, acceptance.
Yeah.
That everything that's happening is happening in its right and perfect timing, in its right and perfect way. We may not like it. We may not like it because we have been immersed in fear, because along with that evolution that we went through from the 5 center to the 9 center was that we still had a spleen center that was really helpful in survival, right? We are a living testament to the spleen's worth because we survived, right? We've gone through all of that. But now that spleen is sort of creating a shadow field of energy around us. And that's partly what we're having to grow up, move through, and the acceptance comes with the maturity to realize that these things are happening. And it's like a tidal wave. There's not much that we can do. We cannot stop this from happening. So what is our choice? Well, we move through it peacefully, gracefully, with acceptance, and with as much ease as we can. And that ease comes when you really understand who you are, how you're designed. Because the next age that we go into, which is dawning, we're in it. We know we're in the dawning of the Age of Aquarius, and that would be the astrological age that we're talking about. But simultaneously running down, next door lane is human design, and this next age of self-authority. And you can, I can almost see, like, if you step back and you look at what's going on in your governments, at least here in the US, they're scrambling to give the people more money, for people who have lost their jobs and things like that, which is so Age of Aquarius, that the whole workforce would also, as an institution, be reorganized. And instead of leading people towards self-sufficiency, they're still trying to hold people to participating in governmental programs. Like the government is the god at this point. And that too it's not sustainable, right? It isn't sustainable. And now, while I say that we shouldn't have things in place, systems in place to help people who need it, the underlying thing should be that we can help people to help themselves.
Yeah, this is not just a one reflection picture, is it? This we're
No.
really being asked, and I just want to share with you that Helen Harris in the chat room says, love this about self-empowerment. I have so many friends who are really freaking out about what is happening right now and what is to come. So this is really important, Janet, because
Yeah.
we're being invited to go so much deeper into this, aren't we? And really get to a place where we can really make change, personal change, which of course is planetary change.
Yeah.
Mm.
I was either listening to something or reading something the other day, and it was so profound that it just stuck with me. How many of you have ever been on a roller coaster?
Yes,
Right? And you have two choices pretty much in how you go about getting on that roller coaster. It's with fear and trepidation, and you're scared to death. You're almost sick to your stomach. And the other way is looking at it with excitement and exhilaration. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm excited to find out.
Yes, I know which way I do it.
Think of this as a global roller coaster ride.
I think that's a wonderful way of explaining it, because that's how everybody is feeling, that they're on this roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you can choose. I mean, I'm not saying don't feel fear, because I think that's just a natural part of who we've been. It's there. But you don't have to let that fear guide your actions or your reactions. You can respond with, wow, I wonder how this is going to end. I wonder
and
how
responsibility, bringing us out of that whole, well, I don't want to do this or I do want to do that, to having that the we experience is so powerful, because it's such a deep invitation to really connect in a very heart-centered way through empowered choices.
Right. So important. And important for everybody to remember, you do have a choice. You can stay asleep, you can wake up, or you can stay undecided. But these changes are happening. It was almost, I could say, written in the stars, because that seems to be the case, right? Evolution, we have gone through great evolutionary leaps before. I think the difference is now that we're very aware. We are very, we're very blessed to have such high technology and to know so much, but sometimes knowing that too much is scary, right? Then oh no.
It's where do we find this balance, and how do we choose to find the balance?
Exactly. Now, how do we find that balance? That's a great question, because in this, humanity is changing from the inside out. There is evolutionary pressure on the outside, but it isn't only in the outer world isn't going to change unless we change from the inside first.
Definitely.
Right?
That's so important.
Yeah. Now let's wax scientific for a bit. There are particles that come into this planet, to the solar system all the time. They're called neutrinos, gamma rays, cosmic rays, protons, neutrons. They're always, bathing this planet in high energy particles. Now, the sun, which is the center of our universe, right? It's the center of our solar system, has solar flare times, and those solar flares act as a sort of protective mechanism, so that it kind of blasts some of the higher particle energy away from the Earth into deep space or whatever, and allows only certain times certain particles to come through, or reduces the number of particles coming through. But we've had two very deep solar minimums over the last 50 years. And we're in one. We may just be coming out of one, but we've been in one throughout this period of time, 2019, ending of 2018, all of 2019, and so far, most of 2020. And when that happens, when the sun goes quiet, it allows more of that neutrino, that cosmic energy into the planet. And what do you suppose those particular particles do? They create change. They create mutation. They create an evolutionary pathway for us to mutate as human beings, to evolve. But it isn't just human beings, it's the whole planet, right? Everything. So that low solar activity has been very effective in creating the opening, the doorway to this particular change. And what it does is creates fear and resistance in the population with reactionary results. We're seeing it,
Yeah.
right? We're
Yep.
seeing it. And what we have to remember through all of this is we always have a choice about what it is that we're going to do, how we're going to react. So when you read the news or you hear the news and there's one scary story over here, and then there's the same story but from a different point of view over here, and they're in conflict because one is saying it because this is the product, this is the problem, another one telling you that this is the problem. It's really just about the fear and the imbalance being created because we're in resistance to the change that is happening. So what do we do about that? Well, partly this is all I can't right and perfect. It's all right and perfect. If you can stay in the peace of it all, that's a whole lot better. Unfortunately, even I get drawn into some of the dramas at times. As much as I know better, I get drawn into them. That we, for the most part, know when that's happening so that we can back out of that. But we also have to understand we're living in a split time. We're living in a timeline that's about to go in two different directions. The one direction is the old Piscean age, and it is holding on for dear life. And, in our country here, we see it in the patriarchy, like holding on, it doesn't want to let go. And we see reaction from some of the older gentlemen on the planet who are in the country who want to, take us backwards in time and create, this old sort of model of government. And then we have the younger people who see, wait, something's not quite right here, and they're pulling in the complete opposite direction. And at some point, we're going to have to realize that the Age of Aquarius reminds us to come back to the center, and that this is becoming an age of individual empowerment. That's what the Age of Aquarius is going to be all about. And that matches perfectly with the human design, which I told you was going to be the age of self-authority. Right? So self-authority and individual empowerment. And you don't get that when the government is handing you things. You don't get that when we're uber dependent on things outside of us to support us. So the biggest change is about our creation of that safe harbor inside of us to see that we can be our own power, our own voice, and our own authority. So that's the big thing. Now, on top of that, everything in this earlier age, so from 1781 till even up to 2027, was all about the doing, right? Everything about productivity and greed and making money and how many widgets can you make, how many more hours a day can you work. Everything about our lives has really been skewed toward the doing. And now we're moving into being. So I find it interesting that a lot of people lost their jobs during this period of time, or their jobs moved to home, right? Where they're safely in their, home and they're doing whatever they're doing. A lot of jobs won't come back. That's the reality, that a lot of jobs that just won't be there. And so now that opens up a whole new market for entrepreneurs and for, finding new ways to live out your passion and not just do that 30 or 40-year grind.
Absolutely. It's beautiful. And we've got so much going on in the chat room. I just want to say thank you to everyone for all your feedback and sharing. And we've got someone in the chat room saying they're really struggling with anxiety. Another person in the chat room saying they've sort of come through that and they're feeling a bit more grounded, which is just such a great, it really is so relevant to what you're saying, because we're going through this moment by moment. And the one thing that I wanted to share with everyone, I've shared it in the chat room, is gratitude is key. We are always loved and supported, no matter what it looks like on the outside.
Correct.
And what you're saying, Janet, is really, really the foundation of that, isn't it?
Yeah. And I'm really keen on this one saying, know thyself.
Yeah.
And now we're going to have to morph that a bit to know thyself and then love thyself, right? Because that's the energy that's got to come out of us, right?
That's it. Yes. Now, everyone, head on over to living-astrology.com. Save it on your thing, because you're going to want to work with Janet. As you can see, she's not only very learned, but she's like an incredible teacher and so incredibly heart-centered that when you begin this process with Janet, your whole life literally begins to open up like a flower. So living-astrology.com, everyone, make sure you note that, and please do visit her and reach out to her on Facebook as well. Thanks,
Awesome.
Janet.
Thank you. So I'm going to throw out some, I'm going to skip what I was going to say next, and I want to give people some symptoms. Symptoms indicating that this solar plexus mutation is underway, because I would bet you're going to feel a whole lot better when you realize that what you're feeling, what you're experiencing is all right and perfect, and telling you that you are on your way to this awakening. First one, physical symptoms: nervous system issues, anxiety, heart palpitate. Well, we'll get to the heart. Food sensitivities. So foods that you've always been able to eat and now you can't eat them, or allergies that are to foods that you've never had before. Drug and alcohol sensitivity. You know, I was having a conversation with someone the other day who said she can't even drink one glass of wine anymore because she feels so inebriated after just one glass of wine, and she's never had that happening to her in her life. Second thing, your relationships are altering. People are leaving your life.
Yeah.
And new people are coming into your life.
Yes, majorly.
Yeah.
People, and I know a lot of people are hearing major relationships, like relationships you never thought.
Yep.
Would no longer exist for you.
And new getting together.
Yep.
And this is because most of this is happening because of a frequency shift, right? As you are ascending, for lack of a better word, as you're moving through this evolution, your frequency shifts. And if
I'm not the same person anymore. I'm just not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just exactly what is going to happen on this cusp of this awakening that's occurring. Number 3, heightened senses: your taste, sight, smell, touch, hearing. I just want to point out how COVID-19 affected the sense of smell and the sense of taste. Yeah. Right? That was like one of the big symptoms that comes up, is that people realize they've lost their sense of taste and their sense of smell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is, that is, especially the younger people who get it. It seems to be, the older people tend to get that cough and the lung issues, but younger people tend to have this sensory thing changing. And that's an indication that something big is changing, right? That there's taste, sight, smell, touch, hearing, all of our 5 senses that are alternating between heightened sensitivity or loss of at various times. I know I stand in my living room sometimes and I'm smelling something and I don't know what it is. It's like pipe smoke. No one in my house smokes or has a pipe, but I evidently have this smell that comes in and I'm like, oh, okay, who's here? Because I just feel like, and I see things out of the corner of my eye and I'm always looking like, oh, I thought there was a person standing there.
Yeah.
So
information is coming really fast for me, whereas I'd have to sit still for longer, like, be in that receptive space. It's like boom. It's amazing.
The other thing that's happening a lot for people are lucid dreams and more psychic impressions. Like that intuition is ramping up. So maybe as you're losing, one sense that you had depended on, this other one is coming in and it's heightened. Temperature changes. Number 4, temperature changes. Hot flashes, cold flashes.
Cold flashes.
Finding it harder to maintain your temperature. So here it is, summertime here. I had a long sleeve sweater on this morning because I was freezing cold until just about a half an hour before the show. And I changed to a lighter weight shirt because I was now hot. Mm-hmm. And these things swinging back and forth for some people. And it doesn't help when, you're menopausal or hormonal and that happens at the same time. But it is also evident in the earth, Mother Earth, going through the same changes we are. And the indication that she is going through that change is what we're terming global warming. but it is
Yeah.
just a symptom of this whole thing.
Right. Okay. And
Number
isn't it
5.
great to have that, it's again, the layers, it having
Yes.
that really clear definition so that we are much more able to be really in touch and in tune with what's happening, instead of it just being, well, it's just this.
Right.
And not thinking about it anymore. We're opening up in so many, they're just showing me we are flowering. We are really, truly flowering.
I
And
really
it's
like
just,
that. I like that,
yeah,
Anayah, the idea of we're opening up to
that's the
something new.
angels. That's they're showing me. They're showing me all over the planet flowers appearing everywhere, and all these sleeping little buds. And they actually, oh, thank you. And I remember them saying to me once, oh, it was so powerful and so beautiful. And they said, as a rosebud, so too your tender heart.
Ooh, I like that.
So look at this, and this is what's happening. And Carol Ann, I know from all our fantastic conversations that, you know, you're experiencing a lot of this as well.
Yeah. You know, everything you're mentioning there, Janet, it's tick, tick, tick.
Check.
Yes. And
That's
just before we go on,
amazing.
Jolene in the chat room is saying, were you going to say about the heart palpitations and heart skipping a beat, Janet?
Yes. That's number 5 on my list here. Heart flutters,
Well done.
palpitations, racing heart. All of those things tell you that your heart center, this heart, is literally opening up, flowering, awakening, right? You're being awakened through your heart. Now, there is danger here as well with the heart, because, you know, that prolonged anxiety can lead to issues with high blood pressure, can lead to strokes and heart attacks, etc. This is why it is so, I can't even stress this enough, so important to know who you are. What is your authentic self? So that you can get out of your head, which is likely the cause and the source of the anxiety, or out of the competition of the heart center and move into the love center, the love part of the heart center, because the heart is literally being awakened in all of us, because literally the biggest dynamic change is in the heart center, right? For in heart chakra, heart center, you know, same kinds of words here. Number 6, sleep patterns. Total disruption in your sleep pattern. Lots of people being awakened between 3 and 7 in the morning, kind of like an angelic wake-up call. Well, that wake-up call is telling you it's time to meditate, or it's time to pray, to get into a prayerful state, because your heart chakra is being tuned up, and that's the time of the morning that rules the heart center or the heart chakra. So if you're someone waking up at 3, 4, 5, lately I've been a 5 to 5:30 a.m. in the morning. My husband's been waking up at 4. It didn't occur to me that that's what was going on until I was really looking at all of this going, well, duh, it's the hours of the heart. So it's time to wake up. Your heart center is getting a tune-up. And one of the ways that you can stay out of that anxiety is meditation, right? Hearing the voice of the angels or your higher self guiding you into this. Number 7, mood swings, right? High 1 minute, low the next. Kind of one of those things that is just part and parcel of all of this. And people think that that might mean they're depressed. And what I have to say about that is we all move into the low end of the emotional wave. We also all move into the high end of the emotional wave. A part of what it is that this mutation will bring is an evening out of that emotional wave, so that we're not as reactive as we have been. We can move through with going, I'm noticing that I must be incubating something or going through an interchange because I'm feeling a little more tired or a little low, but I don't have to go all emotional and go see my doctor and find out if I'm depressed and get on drugs. And by the way, I am not advocating doing that or not doing that. I'm just saying that is a symptom here of what's going on.
Exactly. And Janet, I can see that it keeps coming back the whole time to know thyself, because what I'm hearing and what it's really being revealed more and more clearly to me as I think about my own journey these past couple of years and right now, I am constantly being asked to really pay attention, really deeply pay attention and honor my own being, regardless what anybody else thinks about it.
Exactly.
Not
And
easy to do, but I'm finding, and it's great because I can see how that's going to evolve even more. But I'm finding that the more I choose to do it, the easier it becomes and the faster I recognize it.
And it is exactly where we're headed. So the more you practice that, the more you honor that within yourself, the easier this transition is going to be. And by the way, if just the three of us managed that transition, think of the number of people we come into contact with in any given day, week, or month, and how we, by our own change, allow that change to happen in others.
Yeah.
So it becomes something that, that keeps moving out and growing and expanding. That's why this is so important. People, wake up, right? Wake up. You can stay asleep if you choose to. You can stay undecided, but if you choose to wake up, you are really affecting a whole lot more than just yourself in the process of this.
And you know what the angels said recently too, in one of their angel messages, was that your smile affects the whole world. Beam your smile, radiate your smile, because that is not just muscles on your face, an expression of something very deep coming within you.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing you say how valuable that is to be present to that. And it is a power. It's a beautiful divine power to uplift others simply by being the upliftment yourself for yourself, because you can't do it for anybody else if you can't do it for yourself. It's just not going to happen.
And really, you cannot do it for anybody else at all. You can only do it for yourself.
Oh, sorry, I didn't even do it. Sorry, I'll rephrase that. To model that for others.
Exactly. Be the role model, and to then it's like in the field then, and it allows everybody else to make that same transition or that same change.
Beautiful.
There was something else I was going to say about that. The heart, I'll come back to it if I think about it. Number 8 on our list, memory lapses. Short term, especially, like where in the bleep did I put my keys? Or where did I lay down my glasses? I must put 1,000 steps on my Fitbit every day by looking for my glasses. Yet, your
And you know what? Sometimes they're on my face or they're not on my face, and I'm looking for them. I'm trying to take them off, and they're not there.
But interestingly enough, all of those life memories that you have are coming up, right? I had chance to work with a nutritionist yesterday, and it was my first appointment with her, so it was a longer appointment. And I don't know, she said some kind of question, and it just opened up like this flood of memories coming back from my childhood that all turned out to be the source of some of the anxieties that I have in my life now, and the source of my poor eating in terms of how I eat and what I eat and when I eat and why I'm eating.
I hear you, girl. I hear you. I'm with you.
So it was interesting, that flood of, these things that I hadn't even thought about. So memories coming to the surface, yet I can't remember where I put my glasses, right? It just seems so weird, but that's one of those symptoms. And as our electromagnetic field, the EMF field, as it shifts, these old memories are coming up, so they will be released. Because some of the memories I was coming up with were about sexual abuse, were about emotional abuse, were about the fear of abandonment, and these things that just were, there. And I can't take that with me, right? That's too much. That's a source of too much fear, and it's not gonna work in that new energy. So if that makes sense, memories. If you're having memories or memory issues on the one hand, and on the other hand, all of these deep, dark, secret memories are coming up, that's a part of this. Number 9 is a negativity dump. And here is where you may suddenly find yourself mad as hell, upset, depressed, or suicidal. I notice how many suicides that for a while, that was really kind of concerning me, seeing how many people were going that way. Yearning to go home, that feeling of, I'm so done here. Can't I just go home? As well, that bipolar feeling, right? The feeling of up and down, my emotions, swinging, that pendulum going back and forth. All of that is you dumping the negativity and letting it go, right? Shedding it.
Makes so much sense. I'm finding, Caroline knows me very well, I've got a Gemini rising, so I want to create and do and juggle and have everything happening at once, and it doesn't work for my Pisces nature. And I'm finding that the more I try and do that, the more I absolutely crash, Janet, and I get really negative about so many things. I'm having a whinge about something to myself in the lounge room. It's like, where is this coming from? And I've started to realize, and you've really backed that up for me. Thank you.
Mhm.
It's because I'm stepping out of my old skin. That old skin, I'm like a snake. It's got to be shed, because if it doesn't, it's going to constrict and constrict. It needs to. I
Yep,
need
and
to
it's
be
going to hold you
much more
back.
graceful with it. Yep.
Yes.
And this
Yep.
next 7 years is going to be hell for you instead
Yep.
of a joyful, exhilarating
Definitely.
experience.
And I'm going for joy, baby.
Yeah,
I'm going for joy. Yeah.
go for joy. By the way, joy in human design is so interesting because you would think it would fall on the solar plexus or the emotional center. It doesn't. It's in the root center. It's a foundational energy for human beings to be in joy.
Oh,
Excellent.
that makes so much sense.
Doesn't come from outside of you. It's inside of you. It's an inside job. And as soon as you say that to people, they're like, oh my gosh, because I'm on a hunt. I'm always out there looking for the next best thing that's going to bring me joy. Is it a job? Is it a relationship? Is it good health? Is it that good book? Is it is it sex? Is it going to be communication or speaking? I mean, we're always on the hunt, but you're not going to find it out there because it was always in here. Yeah, always.
And how many times have you experienced, guys, everyone watching, this sense of I'm having these joy surges where I just start laughing out loud at, wherever I am. And it's almost like it bubbles in and it just has to escape. And all of a sudden I'm just tapping into what is there in that wellspring.
Yeah.
And it's really, it's very magical, but it's also really uplifting and energizing, of course, but it feels so right.
Life affirming.
Yeah, it just feels right, like breathing.
Yes, exactly. So we've been stuck in this mental framework. We've been stuck in the mind's domain. And anybody that listens to any of my broadcasts will tell you I am forever saying to people, get out of your mind and get into your heart, or at least align the mind and the heart. Because, and I will also tell people there's no decision making in the mind. That's beyond us. That's behind us. I don't know if it ever was us, right? But what is true is making decisions from what feels good to you. And that to an older generation might sound very Pollyanna-ish or not realistic, but that is the truth of where we're going, to what feels good for me. If it feels good for me, then that also goes out from me and allows others to do what's right for them and what feels good to them.
Yep.
Right? Then I'm not in judgment. Then I'm not analyzing and criticizing and making you wrong, creating more division, creating more discord, because I'm square in here, right? I'm living from my heart. So that's happening. How much more time do we have here? So how about questions? Do people have questions that they're bringing up, or do you two have questions that you want me to answer?
Caroline?
Well, I just think it's so interesting when I read about, my chart and being a manifesting generator. A lot of it, yes, I can relate to really quite easily, especially in the conditioning theme of being a frustration.
Right.
That's always been a thing for me. I try to get something done and it doesn't happen, or I get frustrated. So I find that was really interesting. I think I'm a lot better now that I'm coming more from my heart space. And I think if I remember correctly, you said, manifesting generators sort of don't rush in. They wait to see the outcome. Is it, or what can happen? Is that what the words you were? As I said, I've been away, so I haven't had time to even really read it.
That's okay. Manifesting generators and generators. And I think both of you, the two of you, are manifesting generators.
Yeah.
And which is so interesting, right? Because Anayah, I would have had you pegged for a projector. And I remember the first time I pulled your chart and I saw that you were a manifesting generator, was like, of course she is. Look at all the things she's involved with, right? But you're such a spiritual person. I thought for sure you must be a projector, which is just my own bias. But a manifesting generator is just as good. It just means that you are working your life in response, dancing with what comes up in the outer world, as opposed to what we often think of in the spiritual world as our intuition or our meditative hunches, that kind of thing. So both of you are like this, right? Where you may have this great aha in a meditative state, but it isn't in the real world yet. Until it shows up in your real world, then you respond to it. Because
Yes.
otherwise you will jump into things and be juggling mass projects, and you can't do it all.
No.
You could try.
That's a hard lesson to learn, that you can't do it all.
Yes.
But
And Janet, you've also taught me, and it's something I resisted for a really long time without realizing I was just, sorry, waving the pencil around, that I was resisting, was that when I get an idea, because I get so inspired about things and I just want to create, as you know. So you've taught me, and I'm really starting to get it now, that when I get this idea, when I get this surge of passion, it's important to wait for an answering energy,
like an echo,
it and then take it through, because otherwise I can spend countless man hours, I mean countless, trying to get the darn thing to happen, to work, to flow. And it's so incredibly frustrating. I can't tell you how many times I've actually felt like throwing my computer. I've had to get up and just, I'm sick of this. And I had to learn, I've got to stop saying I'm sick of this and say, I'm not sick at all.
No.
I'm being shown continuously, but I've chosen to ignore it.
Yeah.
So now I realize that once that responding energy comes in, yes, this is for me to move forward with. So
right. Awesome. Now, may I show the audience your charts?
Brilliant.
So I have both of your charts, and I think this brings me to, I mean, I could go on and on about the history and all of the different things, but I really want to show people why this is important to you as an individual, because a lot of what we,
before we do that, we've got Jolene. How do we find out what we are? Okay, everyone, if you want to find out what you are, you go to living-astrology.com. You can have a look on that page, your landing page. You will find a place to get your free human design chart and mini report, and then you can take it from there. You can book a full reading with Janet as well, of course, but that will give you
that gives you the basics. Yeah. So if you go to the home page, just scroll down toward the bottom, and it's a fairly big area. You'll need your birth date, your birth time, and your birthplace. And then I can get that chart. Now, if you don't know your exact birth time, do not panic. Just give me as close of a guess as you have, or as much anecdotal evidence in your own life that you have, that you were born in the morning or in the evening or in the middle of the night, etc. Human design is much more forgiving without a birth time than the other types of astrology. So those three things: be prepared, and please, 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 if you live in the USA, please put the name of the city and the state that you are living in. If you are in another country, which I'm sure a lot of you are that hear this broadcast, please put the city and the country. Don't just assume. Somebody did that to me today, and I thought, wow, that's a unique enough name. If I just Google that name, I might find out what country it's in. And it turned out it was in India. There were no other cities named that, so that worked out. But sometimes people will give me a name of a city, and I'm like, I don't know what country that's in.
Okay, so too much information is better than not enough information.
Correct.
And you will get a much more accurate outcome for yourself as well, and make things a lot easier for Janet.
And what you'll get is a chart that's personalized to you, and a report that's, I don't know, maybe 10 pages long, 9-10 pages of information explaining your type, your strategy, your authority, etc. So
it'll change the way you look at everything, guys. It really will. And it will explain so much for you. And the other thing it'll do is it gives you some really good tools. It's like a roadmap. Suddenly, if you can't read maps, you will be able to understand why you can't read maps, for example, and what your other, you know what I mean? What your other, like for me, why can't I get my project off the ground? Well, I know now. And so suddenly my projects are getting off the ground because I'm doing things in a different way. It's
Doing it the correct way for you.
the correct way for me. That's exactly right. So I really highly recommend this for everyone. And it doesn't matter when you're listening, if you're listening now live or later in the podcast or watching this later, go ahead and do that at living-astrology.com.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Anayah. Now I'm going to share my screen here and bring up, I'm not sure whose chart I'm bringing up because it doesn't show me. This is yours, Anayah. So what everybody, actually, you know what? I don't want to do it this way. I'm going to stop sharing. Stop sharing. I wanted to do it the other way. Will it let me?
We'll find out.
Yes, it will. There, I think I've got it. This happens to be Carol's, but there's Anayah's and there's Carol's. We could go back and forth. So this is what a human design chart looks like. And this is a large version of it. I don't know if I can make it any smaller to make it fit the screen. Let's see if that does it. No, that's fine. That ain't gonna help me. So a human design chart is, first of all, don't you just like have a magnetic attraction to it? When you see it, the very first time I saw mine, I was like, oh, drawn in. I was like incredibly drawn in. And this is yours, Carol. So when you look at it, the first thing you note is that you have all of these different energy centers. Some of them are colored in, some of them are white. But if you scroll down to the very bottom of the page, this is really where the key information is. This is where you're going to find out what type you are. It's going to tell you what your conditioning theme is. And by the way, the conditioning theme of frustration used to be called the not self theme. It's literally what happens when you're living against your type or not living your strategy. So it's not like you're doomed to feel frustration all the time. That's what I thought at first. I was like, well, that sucks. It's really about, it is a barometer or a temperature really of where you are in your creation process or in your relationships. Because if you're feeling frustration, you've entered into something incorrectly maybe, or you're pushing the river, or something is off in your energy because it's not an ease and a flow, it's a frustration. So it's information, it's informative for you. Then below that, you're going to see a strategy, and yours is a multi-pronged strategy, as is Anayah's, because you are a hybrid type. A manifesting generator is the cross between a manifester, one of the rarer types, and the generator, one of the more popular types. Popular, that's not the word, but more abundant types.
Well done, Janet. I knew the word you didn't want to use.
Yes, semantics. Here we go. So in a strategy, helps you to make the decisions that are right for you, right? It puts you in the right place. So for example, when Anayah said that she was always just jumping into things, you know, taking on more and more, following these creative impulses, but without something in the outer world that matched it as the correct thing to act on, she was wasting a lot of time and a lot of energy. She was feeding that frustration, which had she known her human design at that moment in time would have told her, whoa, 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 I'm doing something incorrectly here, right? No. So you have your strategy that really keeps you on task, moving in the right direction and feeling good about the things that you're doing. Then you also have, I'm going to skip down here a little bit to this thing called inner authority. We were looking at Carol's chart, right? Yes, Carol. So your inner authority is sacral expressed generated. That's just a jumble of words to say your real true power lies here in the sacral center. Because you're a manifesting generator, your body goes through a process of recognizing when something is a yes, an aha, or an like your body is going through that, and literally it's pushing you back into your solar plexus or the sacral center, so that you will be aware of the right course of action versus what's not the right course of action. The right people to be around, the right opportunity, the right timing, etc., comes from that inner body or right? So you're listening to your body, not your intuition, not your emotions, not your ego or your will center, not even your intuition in this case. It is your sacral that you are listening to. And when you are responding to the things that show up in your outer world and using your authority to see what is it my sacral is saying in the moment, you are almost pointed in the right direction for the maximal expression of who you are in the world, the maximal love energy.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then you'll also see a profile. A profile tells you, if you think of your life as a play, right, and all the world's a stage here, the role that you're playing is this profile. In your case, you're playing the role of the investigating martyr. I know that's just a bunch of words that sound kind of funny. It just means you like to know things. You like to
Yes.
go looking for answers. So if I say human design, you're going to be on Google or at the library looking up, what is that? And I want to know more, and I want to know more. The problem in that is it creates a conundrum in your life, because now you're trying to solve the problem or make the decision from your mind, which is doing the investigating, right? And if I look up here at your mind, it's open. And that means that you're being affected by what's out there in the field, by who you're around, by planets and what they're transiting through. So you have to be careful to always follow your type, your strategy. And if you only knew the three keys, your type and strategy, your authority, and your profile, it would put you right in the way of your own destiny, right? It would start this whole process of awakening for you. And I have a reading that is called The 3 Keys to Unlocking the Power of Your Human Design. It is only $99, where the other full one is $199. So you get this, you don't have to have it, be this expense thing. You can go with a lighter version and still get to the truth about the starting point, at least for who you are. Now, Anayah, I wish I did these separately so I could have seen what they look like side by side. But if you just look at this, you can see how different they are.
Yes.
Right? Anayah has this certainty that Carol Ann does not have. Carol Ann, did you have a defined throat? You do. So you both are good speakers, right? You both have this voice that you want to share, and you want to bring it out to the world. Anayah, you have the connection from the center of the soul, to which we call the identity center, or the G center, you'll hear it called, up to the throat center. You want to be a contributor to the world. You want to be someone that left her mark. When you leave the planet, you want to say, I left my mark. And Carol, do you have that? You have part of it. So maybe Anayah helps fill that in for you, because one of the other striking things about human design is we can see how we are drawn together to each other. Because when you have a gate, these numbered areas are called gates, that's hanging like this one is, it's only partway across. Someone like Anayah will come along. She has the other half of that gate, and now you're more complete. Right?
Yep.
And we're always doing that with one another. I'm sure the whole audience and you too have had the experience of someone that you just felt enveloped by them, like you just wanted more of them. And then other times, maybe you're like, okay, stand back. That is your human design at work with the other person's energy and how you're mirroring to each other different connections throughout the charts. So not only do you learn enough about yourself, you begin to really understand who you are in relationship and who other people are, and you begin to allow them the freedom to live their lives and be their true authentic selves. It's amazing how quickly that happens just in knowing who you are.
Yeah.
And then Anayah, you also have sacral generated definition or authority, excuse me, just like Carol Ann. So your body is telling you in the moment that you have something to respond to, whether it's an or an right?
Yep.
So listening. Now the difference is you have a different profile.
Yeah.
Right? You have a very powerful profile, one that is very networking, that needs a lot of different people and experiences, that has a triphasic life path, which basically means there's 3 important parts of your life. The first 30 years, then from about age 30 to 52, and then after 52. And or so it can be 50 to 52. And you really
so interesting. It's around then that I created Angel Heart Radio, of course.
And that's because that is when you come into your power. Your true role model status as a 6th line profile happens in the 3rd phase of your life. And you're young at heart. right? So you have youth on your side, even if you're, numbered. Age says one thing, you have this youthful appearance and this energy to be able to complete your role model mission while here on the planet. So that is something that, and not that Carol Ann doesn't have that. She's very experiential too, but she's a little more detective status than you are. You're more open and let's go, let's do it. And
Just jump
she
in and go
wants
for it, right?
she wants to check it out first and then she'll do it.
It's so true, Carol Ann, isn't it?
Yes, that
It's
is.
so true.
Yeah.
That's
I
true.
love it. I'm
So
loving it.
so now I did this for a reason, because this is how easy it is to open the doorway to this particular mutation that's about to happen. And they say in human design that it takes 7 years to undo your conditioning. And we have exactly 7 years right now before that
Yes,
mutation is
true.
done, is a done deal. So it's perfect time for people to sign up, get the reading. If at the very least, if you can't afford a reading, that's cool. Get the report. It tells you enough information to get you started on your journey through a human design and knowing who you really are. And remembering then, of course, all of this is about releasing the mind and increasing the heart, right?
Yeah.
Releasing the mind, increasing the heart.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
Excellent. That's
That's
absolutely amazing. Thank you, Jen.
thank you. You're most welcome. And, anybody out there that is even considering this, I think I put you in the checkbox of I will awaken, right?
Yeah.
That 1/3, that will of the population that will awaken, taking you out of the undecided and into, let's force that to be the 2/3, right? The
Yeah.
2/3 will awaken.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's really embrace this, everyone. Right here today, tonight. What a fantastic opportunity we've all got for ourselves as individuals to really move forward with this energy in a way that we can really experience in a very empowered and beautiful way. And this is why Carol Ann and I have been that excited, and Janet too, about having Janet on the show. And Janet's been so excited about sharing this knowledge and information because it's really hands-on. We are in the crucible right now.
Absolutely. And
Right.
I have had a roller coaster of emotions around this whole thing, because there are parts today that we did not get into that are not so pretty. I mean, they're really kind of but
But you
they're
know what,
also a
at the
part of
same
this
time,
process.
you're the sort of person, because it's you, I would be really keen to have you back and talk about that, because
Yes,
you're not a doom
definitely.
and gloom person. Carol Ann, you'd agree, right?
Yep, I definitely agree, because I think it's so necessary. It's like we need to see both sides. We need to see the shadow as well as the light to help us
Yeah.
to move forward.
Yeah, because it all plays together. I mean,
Yeah.
some of the most exciting things that I looked at against some of the more negative things was the fact that part of this is about our letting go of eating meat, our
Yes,
letting
yes.
go of the suffering of animals on the planet. We're letting go of our own animal instincts. And in its place, we're being more heart-centered. We're becoming more human. We are 1/3 animal, 1/3 human, and 1/3 angel. That's our matrix, right? So if we're letting go of that more animalistic part of us, the mammalian part of us that came through survival energy and survival of the fittest and eat or be eaten kind of mindset, then we allow more space for the angel and the human to coexist. And so part of that experience is our releasing that and eating more light, if I can say that, eating more light. In other words, when you look at a plant, its nutrition comes to us via light, the sun, right? And the sun's processes of the plant. So by definition, we're eating the light. Well, when we eat animals, that's partly happening too, but it's so far removed that we don't get very much light. And then you factor in the suffering of the animals that we're eating as well during their lifetime, and it's really not been serving us. So that's one of the really cool things I think that will happen over the course of time, that and maybe releasing of competition and greed. Those are things that will also be falling away. Yeah.
So important. I mean, and again, I've really begun to not identify, but really experience and understand the different parts of my natures, right? So I could see how much my Gemini nature wants to be in competition. I want to do better, I want to do faster, I want to go further, right?
Yep.
And yet that push energy is exhausting.
Yep.
And then coming into that lighter nature with my Piscean nature, I just feel it. I can feel it, Janet. I can feel there's just like, it's like a gentle stream, and it's just inviting me all the time to simply rest in it and be carried where I need to go.
Right, because we're being, not doing. We're becoming more being and less doing. So we won't be measuring in the future. We're not going to be measuring each other against what we do in the world, right? It'll be who we be. Who are we? How, are we reflecting love? Are we reflecting joy? Are we excited with life? I'm not saying that we're not going to have any negative things or negative feelings, anything like that, but it's certainly going to take the back seat over time. Now, I hope this happens in my lifetime. I mean, it's not going to magically happen the day, we turn into 2027, but the children being born from that point on will certainly come equipped to live that kind of mutation. The rest of us are sort of catching up and having to unlearn some bad habits, right, that we've gotten into.
Important is that? I mean, what a powerful thing for us, those of us in that energy frequency and field, because here we are, we have the ability to transcend this. We have the ability to ascend.
Yes, we do.
If we really all just stop and think about that for a moment, I mean, embrace yourself, everyone. Give yourself a beautiful, loving embrace, because you are capable of doing this. You're not watching this for no reason. You're here, but to me, like, it's a divine agreement. We're here to support each other. We're here to work together. We're here to love one another. And that doesn't mean to say we're even going to like one another in real life. Maybe we don't. It doesn't matter. Because a lot is more about a mental process. Oh, I don't like what she does there, or he does, or see. You know what I mean? We can see that beautiful split away from that mental activity of how we categorize things, and into
creates separation. It creates more separation.
Totally.
We don't need that. We have enough division and polarizing energy here because we live on a duality-based planet. We've totally not learned the lesson about what the duality is all about. So this gives us that opportunity to really heal that within ourselves, and then help bring that to life on the planet.
And of course, as we said before, we're modeling this now. Gabby, and there's so much is going on in the chat room, guys. You're amazing. So Helen says she wasted so much time until Janet taught me about waiting to respond. So grateful to her.
Is that Helen Harris?
Helen Harris, the
the Helen Harris with her two little kids, Tova and forgot the other.
I know. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name. Beautiful children. Yep.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. Oh, I can't go there. Okay, so we've also got now Gabby is saying, I truly believe we are meant to be the guardians of Gaia, and she's saying that she was feeling very hypocritical. She loves animals so much she can't bring herself to digest them anymore. Hey, you know what? This is about the choices we're all making and what feels right for us. So, Jenna, what would you say to someone who says, but I'm a carnivore, I love my meat, I'm not going to give up my meat?
I'm saying don't I wouldn't sweat that, right? I wouldn't sweat that right now. I would say there are so many other things. I think a natural process of the heart opening and becoming more loving and kind is that we naturally will let that fall away, right? It will naturally begin to react in your body in not such a powerful way or a positive way. So don't worry about it now. It's going to happen.
Don't worry about it. It's not worth worrying about at the moment.
No, it really isn't. Another really beautiful outcome of this is the ability that we will have to see and feel and know another as ourselves. We're really going to be that empathic, right? So eventually what you'll be feeling would be the pain of that animal, right?
Yeah.
Or the, the giving up of its life for your survival. And that will become intolerable for you, right? That is just, and I don't know how long that will take to happen for you, but eventually that will be happening. We're also going to witness the return of Christ consciousness, the true Christ consciousness on this planet. And that was based in love and not having to, not with all of those different hypocritical different things, rules that say, do this or don't do that, that aren't really anything that Christ had in mind when he came to the planet. It will be a more silent world. Now, to me, that's interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, that opens up a whole nother conversation. We'll be able to use technology for the good of all and not for war, right? War will become a thing of the past, because if we're all living from the heart and we're all living in an empathy for one another, there's nothing to fight about.
And the impetus to fight isn't there.
Right.
It's really interesting because I can see exactly how it will mesh together. I was really guided to post one of the Ascended Masters series episode last week, with the Ascended Master Quan Ti. Now, Quan Ti was a Han Dynasty warlord, right? Very loyal, very powerful warlord. But in his lifetime, he came to understand that strategizing and finding peaceful measures were far more productive, far better. And you can see, I mean, this is crikeys, I don't even know what year it was. If someone could do it then, we certainly can do it now. Right?
There has been a golden age on this planet in the past.
Okay.
There has been a time where on this planet there was peace and prosperity, and it was, it was Eden, right? In the Bible, we referenced it as Eden. It was here. And then we had another evolutionary leap that took us out of that kind of energy and into the more advanced energy, if you will, learning about the mind. I think another really good byproduct of this change will be we will come to rely on the sun as the source of energy on the planet, as it always was meant to be. And instead of raping Mother Earth for all of the oil or all of the, whatever it is that we mine from her, we'll be relying on the sun. And the sun's energy is free, by the way, right? We don't have to pay for that. I mean, other than the infrastructure to support it, it is free energy. And there's so much already about solar that we can take and learn lessons about. Cars will be running on that. Our houses can run on that. Our businesses. I know that there are airlines that are toying with this idea of how do we make solar flights. So that is something that's coming up. We're going to think in new ways, right? Your mind is going to be set to think in a totally different way.
And really receptive. I can see our minds are going to be so receptive to this information that right now our minds simply aren't, because we can't understand how it could practically work or be applicable.
Right. The mind is going to fall in line to the heart, right? It's going to line up with the heart. It's going to serve the heart as the emotions will serve the heart. And instead of the mind being the one now that is the master, it really comes back to the heart. And love and peace and prosperity becoming that, more abundant energy. But again, it doesn't happen overnight. It's going to take time. And we can all kickstart that right now by doing what we can to entertain the idea of more love and joy, being our true selves, allowing other people to live out their truths. And, somebody, I think it was Gabby, said something about Mother Earth. Well, Mother Earth is also evolving through this. And one of the things that is happening to human beings on the planet, you hear it all the time about how obesity and being fat is, kind of an endemic problem right now. That's also a symptom of Mother Earth going through her own maturing and her own evolution. And we, as beings that are emotional, we're picking that up. And we're expanding ourselves. Now, that's just a temporary condition. I'm not saying, if you're fat, don't do anything about it. I'm just saying that's one of the symptoms of what's happening here, is that Mother Earth is going through her own changes and we live on her. And so we pick that up as well.
And also that beautiful thing that it's coming out of that judgment about what fat means.
Yes.
And it's a very different world. You know, I mean, I've lost nearly 50 kilos and over the last, I don't know how many, I don't know, it's been 8 years since I started losing the weight. But what I realized was, for me personally, I wasn't emotionally ready. I could understand, I identified why I was fat in the first place. So it was a protective thing for me. I never felt comfortable being slim. But what I began to realize was I then became much more in tune with myself, and I felt more connected to my own heart. And it wasn't until I found out I was going to be a grandmother that I suddenly thought, I want to be able to run, play, jump through hoops with the kids.
Chase after those little kids.
Right. So suddenly it changed my focus. And so I naturally started to eat breakfast, for example, kickstart my metabolism, drink water, never drank water before, drink a lot of water, eat regular meals, smaller meal, you know, instead. So what I'm saying about that is not advice to anyone, but it was really, I started to get in tune with what my body's needs were and how I could live in a much more harmonious way with myself. And if I can live more harmoniously with myself, I'm going to live more harmoniously with others as well, aren't I?
Yes.
You know?
And, you know, there are also going to be natural cataclysms, right? Flooding, hurricanes, earthquakes, fires. All of those are also symptoms of the cataclysm is actually an inner cleansing the earth is going through as well. It's part of, you know, it might be akin to a fever that we have if we get an infection. It might be our sweating, right? If we're sweating out something, it's also what she is going through. So global warming is really almost a projection that we have of victimization, right? That we're seeing her as being victimized by us, and it's a projection of our own victimization out onto her. So much. I told you I could have gone on for another hour with this. It's just so amazing.
It's another show. That's all. We just have to
totally another show because
and we can do that so easily, everyone. So if you have questions that you want to raise, it's been great in the chat room today. I've got no idea what time it is. Can't see a clock.
Yeah, well, it's 12 minutes to 1.
Okay, so we've still got some time. But so if you've got questions, don't hesitate to write to us at love@angelheartradio.com or send us a message on Facebook. Put a comment on this particular show. For the next show, we can certainly address some questions for you as well. Gabby's saying, wow, right? Yeah.
Yep. It's right. Wow. There's so much more to this.
Because it's not about not looking at anything and putting our heads in the sand. It's what we do with the information, how we present it and speak about it. Our words are so powerful. Right. If we're going to be speaking doom and gloom, it's not going to happen. But if we're going to be speaking the way you do, Janet, then that's a whole different thing with a whole different outcome and opportunity.
And I would love to tell you all that this is an easy journey that we're about to embark on. I think it's really going to be life-changing, but it's also going to be our always consistently aligning ourselves with spirit so that we're walking our talk. And you're going to fall down, you're going to fail miserably, and then you're going to get back up and you're going to remember that this is a learning process, that this is an evolutionary impulse, and that you're not a bad person. You're not, you know, shamed or blamed or guilted or a victim. It is just a process of our realigning ourselves. And it's like trying to ride a bike for the first time. How many did it the first time without falling?
Exactly.
I didn't. No. Some people might, but let's say skating or ice skating, same thing, right? You're learning a new skill. You're gonna have those moments of total failure. The good thing is you have the tools with your human design to get picked back up and put back in the right direction of, you know, walking through your life, even with the traumas and the dramas that might go on all around you.
And something I want to mention, but Carol Ann, have you got something you'd like to say, darling? I can feel.
Oh, look, I've just been a bit overwhelmed. I probably haven't got a real lot to say except smile, everybody, and let it ripple out. Let your energy ripple out the world. And you know, as we can affect more, then they're affecting more. The ripple effect is also very amazing.
Very so powerful. Profound, right? That ripple effect.
So Janet, back early in the year, now everyone, Janet is with Annette McCoy once a month on Angel
Mhm.
Heart Radio. It has been for years. How blessed are we? And I heard you say something way back then about something that was about to occur on the planet. And then, of course, COVID came in very powerfully, very quickly. Can't remember what month it was, what show it was, in the beginning of the year, obviously. And I just
or
wanted
maybe
to,
December. Well, Annette and I don't meet in December, so it was probably January.
yeah, probably January. So that is available on Angel Heart Radio's Facebook page. Just go to the videos, look for it, you'll find it. And then you said there was another event coming in September.
Yeah.
And it's really the reason I'm asking you about this, Janet, is because we're all in such a receptive place right now, and so much is occurring as a support tool, as a support mechanism, to know that, yes, there are other events about to take place. We are not powerless. We have not been forgotten. We are not being punished in any way. What can you say about that, Janet?
I can tell you that beginning in August, beginning the 31st of this month. So we're there, right? We're right there. And all the way through the early part of 2021 are really very highly energetic times. And we're probably going to see it. Mars is highly activated. He's going to move. He's in his sign of rulership, Aries, which means he's got more power. He's going to turn retrograde, which means we're going to have an elongated period of time of experiencing Martian sort of anger, confrontation, conflict. But we can turn that same energy into productivity. And really, if we choose to, making some great strides in making the changes that we need to have on the planet. I don't know that that's going to be available. I really think we're still in so much of the crash and burn, but you as an individual don't have to buy into that. You for yourself can move through this energy with what I call response. Instead of knee-jerk reacting to the conflict around you or anything that somebody says to you, breathe, meditate. Before you react, at first breathe, and then be able to respond. It just gives you that little heartbeat moment to remember love and not anger or frustration or fighting, right? It doesn't mean that the fight or the anger or the frustration might not still be there, but you don't have to package it up and throw it out there at the other
You don't have to
people.
engage with it. And
You
that,
don't have
for
to
me
engage.
personally, is very difficult. And I've been really learning a lot about this these past couple of years. But I can say absolutely positively that it has been life-changing for me. And there have been so many times I've really wanted to have my say. I have felt like it's been a complete injustice. I mean, things have been said about me, for example, that are complete untruths, complete untruth. And yet I can see now on the show, speaking to you, exactly why it has been absolutely vital that I do not engage in any of it.
Absolutely.
And the strength that it's actually bringing me. So thank you, Janet. That I can't even begin to tell you how powerful this is for me in this moment. So thank you.
Oh, very good. I'm so glad. I mean, there is much more to come, particularly for the listeners that are in the USA, because the USA is getting ready to move through their first Pluto return. So Pluto has a 248-year cycle. In the year 2022, that's our exact Pluto return. So we're in the bullet burn of it now, and you can see it. I mean, we're in the throes of death and rebirth, and it's not pretty, right? Every country or nation that has lived as long, say, as England, they've had three Pluto returns in the UK. And they've survived them, right? But not without upheaval and change. And so for my US listeners, this time with Mars is bracketing our election year. Our elections are in November. At the same time, Mars is in retrograde and then coming back over the same space that he was in during the retrograde, only in forward motion. And then we have the very powerful Saturn-Jupiter conjunction at 0 degrees Aquarius on the winter solstice, which changes and talk about a portal of change. That one is huge. It's not necessarily easy, but it will change the dynamic on the planet. It really, it's almost like, what is his name? Admiral Byrd, who was placing the flag at the North Pole or the South Pole, wherever he was, that, claiming this land. It's like Aquarian age finally planting the flag of, I'm here, deal with me.
Right. Okay.
And after that, it gets a little dicey for a while. But I think overall, we're coming out of the most dicey time and getting into the more of the rebuilding time. And
Wonderful.
that's interesting. It brackets this 2020 to 2027.
Great. Wonderful. Now we've got, and then we really will have to go, because when Carol Ann said it was almost 1 o'clock, that meant nothing to me. But now I realize, oh, it's like 1 o'clock. We started at 11:30. Okay. So Gabby says that she has felt shocking for weeks, and she now has a totally different outlook after the show. From my heart, thank you. Love you all. And she also says, I'm sticking with you for the next few months, Janet. Yes, go for it. We've got Becky saying, replying to Gabby, yes, a funk I haven't been able to shake. Now I understand. Look at the power of good this show is.
You're all right and perfect, right? You're right on time, right?
Exactly.
You're all in this. We're all in this together, only we're all different. So we're going to experience it in a little bit different ways. But you're still right on target. We're doing this. And all you need to do when you get into that is to remember there is a purpose, right? You signed up for this ride. How extraordinary that we are all here on this planet at this time, that we're going to be able to experience this level of an evolutionary leap in person and not just read about it in the history books or the anthropology books.
And help carry it through.
We are the co-creators. That's the other important thing that in part of the talk that I wanted to give, that 2012 was really the marked year of when we had those puppet strings cut and we really became full-on co-creators with this reality. So that begs the question, what do you want to create?
Yeah. So I can see that we've got more than one more show on this to do.
I'm putting my book away. No more notes. No more looking at what I want to say.
And I reckon hands up everyone who wants it. There's hands going up all over the place. So yeah, we will sort it out and get back with you. And Janet will bring that to you right here with Carol Ann and I. We're really thrilled to be able to have Janet back, aren't we, Carol Ann?
Definitely. Thank you so much for everything today, Janet. We
thank
could have gone on forever.
Thank you for holding the space for us to be able to have this caliber of a conversation, because it's so needed.
It is so needed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And everyone watching, you're a part of this. You're a part of holding this space. You may not realize it. You might think you're watching. You're not. You are involved. You are co-creating this show just as much as we are. So thank you. All of you, everyone in the chat room, all your comments. You're awesome people. We love you, love you, love you.
I love it. Let's be excited. This is something to be excited about.
It's very, very important to be, as you say, that joy and excitement kind of bubble in together, don't they?
Yep.
Yes. So please like our Facebook page, like Angel Heart Radio on Facebook. We really want to stay connected with you, and that's a really cool way to be able to do it. And then you can see what's coming up. We've got heaps of other amazing people on Angel Heart Radio, and we want to be able to introduce you around. So, Janet?
Thank you, ladies. Anayah, Carol Ann, blessings to you girls.
And to you too.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Everyone. Thank you, Carol Ann. Love spending the time with you as well.
Love you too, Anayah, and it's been great, really exciting, really interesting and thought-provoking.
Get out of your mind, Carol Ann. Get in your heart.
I was waiting for that reaction.
Okay, everyone, take good care of yourselves, and remember that you make such a difference. You are here on purpose. You're part of a divine plan. I really want you to take that in. And while everything that's said on Angel Heart Radio is our opinion and certainly not meant for you to direct your lives by, we really appreciate the opportunity to share our thoughts, feelings, and opinions, knowledge and wisdom with you. But don't forget, you've got a lot of that in you as well. You've got your own wisdom base. You've come with it. It's inside you as well. So tap into that. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Good
Thanks,
night.
Di. Thanks. And be kind, especially to yourself.
You
are
will
the most-
come back now.
You'll come back now.
You hear?
This is Carol Ann's way of saying, stop speaking, Anayah. Just finish it. I've got to go.
Good night, ladies. Mwah.
Love you guys. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.